This week it's all about summer rolls with lemongrass beef. So I'm going to start off with your marinade for your beef. I've actually got some flank steak strips here, which will go really nicely in the summer rolls. They're nice and thinly sliced already. So bash your lemongrass and finely chop this up. I'm not going to do too many, so I'm just going to use one stalk of lemongrass. If you bash it, you can use the whole lot rather than have to sort of sit there and peel every outer piece off. Make sure it's really finely chopped. And we've got a good bit of garlic in here. I'm going to use a bit of garlic for the nouc cham dipping sauce as well. Whether it's for the marinade or the dipping sauce, everything's got to be finely chopped. The lovely thing about summer rolls is that because they're fully wrapped, you can pretty much put whatever you want inside. So, you know, you could have them completely vegetarian, or if you want to add a bit of texture into it, which is what we're doing here, then, you know, wrap these strips of lemongrass beef into it. When we were in Ho Chi Minh recently, we had, you know, things like beef wrapped in betel leaf and then wrapped into a summer roll, or we just had sort of rice paper that was a little bit thinner than this and probably more fresh, just sitting on the side of most meals that you could just wrap whatever you wanted into. It's almost like the carrier to any type of food. So you want a good bit of that garlic for the marinade. That goes with the lemongrass. The rest can go into my dipping sauce. Chili. Again, a little bit into your dipping sauce. And if you want your beef to be a bit spicy, then we'll use the other for the marinade. Just going to cut that a little bit finer, just so it spreads across the marinade a little better. So, just to remind you guys, lemongrass, garlic, chili in the base of that marinade. The rest are really simple. I've got a bit of fish sauce, half of which I'm going to go into there, the rest for the dipping sauce. Palm sugar, balance out the saltiness of that fish sauce. I've got about a teaspoon into the marinade, and then a little bit more in the actual dipping sauce. Some people ask where we get soft palm sugar from. It's soft when we first open it because a good palm sugar comes with a sort of wax on top that keeps it nice and soft. But once you've opened it and, you know, kept it out in your cupboard for a while, then it will start to harden. My nouc cham dipping sauce is pretty much there. I'm going to put a bit of lime juice into that as well. A good bit of lime. What you want is a nice balance of sweet, salty, spicy, all in one. We've got some homemade pickled purple carrot and daikon as well, and radish. So we're going to put that into the actual summer rolls, which will look beautiful and add a bit more sour. Right, so my dipping sauce is nice and ready. Now all I've got to do is marinate my beef. As I said, I've got these strips of flank steak here. You can keep the fat on, but I'm actually going to take this off because I want it. It's, you know, it's a summer roll at the end of the day, so I still want it to be nice and sort of clean feeling, even though I've got meat in it. I'm going to just slice that in half there, so we've got nice strips. They'll obviously contract a little when I cook those through. I'm just going to sear them quickly in the wok. So So we're going to get that into the marinade. And then just give that a good rub through. Get all that flavour and the palm sugar, the fish sauce mixed well into that. If you had a bit of time, you could cling film this and put it in the fridge overnight. And that would pack even more flavour in. But it's, you know, fish sauce is quite strong, so you'll get good flavour almost immediately anyway. So my strips of beef are ready for a quick sear in the wok. So I'm actually going to oil the beef rather than the wok, because then ideally the beef will char well, but the oil won't burn too quickly. So my wok's really high heat, and I do want it to char the beef. So I'm just going to lay those nice and flat in the wok. Kind of like using the wok as a sort of tabletop barbecue, really. That smells delicious. Just going to sear that nicely, keeping it on a high heat. You don't want to overcook this, so you can see how quickly that's charred. That's from the caramelization of the palm sugar there. So that's done really quickly there. 30 seconds on either side should do the job on a high heat. So I've got my rice paper rolls, and the reason why they've got this crisscross shape is they're essentially sort of, when they're made, they're dried on a bamboo sort of basket, I guess. So what you want to do is just dip your rice paper in a bit of hot water. Over the next sort of minute or so, that will start to sort of absorb all that water. A little bit of lettuce. Got some home pickled veg. So this is actually a combination of pickled daikon, carrot, and some radish. So not only is it great for colour, but texture and that sour flavour is going to really work well with the lemongrass beef. A little bit of rice vermicelli into the centre, and then a few picked mint leaves. You can use whatever herbs you want, really. And by that time that you've sort of layered it up, you should be able to grab your pastry and then start to roll. So you roll to the centre, and you can see that lemongrass beef in there. And then you're going to bring the sides in nice and tight. And you can see how sticky this is now, which is great because it's nice and easy to roll. At the last part, it's just roll and tighten. So roll it up, tighten it a bit more, roll it up, tighten it a little bit more. Try not to break the pastry whilst you're doing it. And then your summer roll is ready to go. So it's nice to have sort of a combination. Once you slice it in, it will look beautiful. So it looks really lovely and pretty once you cut them in half. That pickled veg in there. Really nice and simple, but with the flavour of that beef, it really, really stands out. Got your nouc cham dipping sauce on the side, lemongrass, beef, summer rolls. I'm very excited by this. The combination of the pickle and the lemongrass beef is actually perfect. Actually, because of that flavour, barely even needs the sauce. Got a nice bit of coriander seed flavour from the pickled daikon as well. This week, it's a classic school wok dish, Sichuan chicken. So you're going to start with a little bit of onion and red pepper. For some reason we have massive onions in the school, so I'm just going to go for a quarter here. If you had a small onion, one small onion will do fine. The general gist of sort of Chinese style presentation of food is if one thing's sliced, everything else needs to be sliced. So my chicken is sliced, not diced. So I'm going for slices of onion and pepper. And this is kind of like a slightly westernified style Sichuan chicken. But we've been doing this since day one in the school, and it just works an absolute treat. Some red pepper. Again, the onion sliced, pepper's going to slice as well. I'm just setting up my wok clock of ingredients here. So starting at 12 o'clock with my first ingredient is going to hit the wok, and then following round. I've got some dry red chilies here. Now, your dry red chilies, which a lot of people call Sichuan chilies or Sichuanese chilies, would have actually originated from Central America. But the reason why it works so well with Sichuanese cuisine is because of the actual, because of the actual Sichuan peppercorns themselves. And Sichuan peppercorns, although they're called peppercorns, they're actually berries that come off like an ash bush. And it's got a really sort of tingling, almost mentally taste to it, and it leaves this very sort of tingling feeling on the tip of your tongue. It's one of those sort of love-hate sort of flavours, I think. The Chinese call mala. It comes from here, so I'm going to just start to compile my spices. With that, we're going to add a bit of garlic and some chili. It's got more chili. I've got a couple of bird eye chilies here. It's going to make it pretty spicy. Of course, you could go for less if you weren't so keen on the spice. A couple of cloves of garlic. You can either just slice this or finely chop it. Up to you. Doesn't really matter. I'm feeling like slicing today, so I'm just going to keep it in nice thin slices of garlic. So that's going to go along with my chili, Sichuan peppercorns. Then my soaked dry red chilies to go with that. All I have to do now is marinate my chicken. I've got chicken thigh, so it's got that nice bit of marbling and fat in there. We're going to start to marinate it very simply with a little bit of light soy sauce. It's about a tablespoon of light soy sauce. Dash of sesame oil. A pinch of sugar. The Chinese believe that everything we cook has its own sweetness, so you're trying to accentuate or amplify that sweetness with that sugar. And then a pinch of 5-spice to go with that. You don't need a lot of 5-spice. 5-spice has got some really strong flavours in there, your star anise and your cinnamon, your clove. So just a little pinch, just to give it that sort of sweet aroma. Now with this, I'm going to put a sort of heaped teaspoon of corn flour into that. And that corn flour in the meat, once it's sort of massaged through, will then sip into the stir-fry sauce, and we'll get that nice sort of silky finish. You want enough corn flour so it makes a sort of creamy texture around the pieces of chicken. Right, my chicken is ready to stir fry. All I have to do now is make up my sauce. So the sauce is made up of the following ingredients. We've got some doubanjiang or some chili bean sauce. So 1 to 2 teaspoons, depending on how spicy you like it. A little bit more light soy sauce for saltiness, so a tablespoon and a half, let's go for. Rice wine, that'll thin that out. So Shaoxing rice wine. And I actually put a little bit of hoisin sauce into this, just to balance out the saltiness and thicken up the sauce. And that'll caramelise nicely. Let's give that a good mix around. Now, you don't need an excessive amount of sauce for this. What I want is just enough sauce to wrap around the chicken and give it that nice sort of caramelised finish. So my sauce at the end of the stir fry. So we've got my wok clock ready. Onions first, your peppers. I'm actually going to put the chicken here just so we don't choke everyone up. And then the garlic, chili, and Sichuan peppercorns go in after that. Last but not least, some cashews to add a bit of crunch. From here on in, it's easy, guys. It's all about the wok cooking, knowing when to sort of move your wok around, change your heat. So I'm going to start it off on a nice high heat. Onions in. Much like all my actual Wok Wednesdays, got to move that heat around and move that wok hay, that wok's air around the right way. I don't want to overcook the onions or the peppers because the chicken's going to take a few minutes to cook through when it gets into the wok as well. So just push that to the back and then get your peppers in. I'm not going to add any oil to this yet until the chicken goes in. The constant movement of the wok is really important. You can either stir, fold, give it a wok toss, or later on, a little bit of a tummy in the head, so round and round and back and forwards with your wok to keep that wok moving. At this point, you either push everything to the back if there's enough space, or you can take that first bit of veg out of the wok and then bring your chicken in. I think I've got enough space there. So oil in, ready for my chicken, smoking hot, and layer that chicken into that hot oil. I'm just going to start to press into that chicken here and bring my onions and peppers over the top so they don't burn. And for the first sort of 30 seconds or so, you want to just press into that chicken to sear nicely. Once you get a good sear on that chicken, then give it a turn. And sear the other side. You can see quite a lot of smoke coming out of the wok right now. I am sort of jigging it around to bring that smoke out of the wok, just to make sure that my meat doesn't burn. My chicken's kind of half cooked right now, and it's got a nice sort of colour around the edge of the pieces of chicken, which is good. So, to me, I can start to bring in the rest of the flavour. If you can still hear me, because that is really sizzling away. So, I'm just going to push that to the back. Last little bit of oil here, just for the spices. So my garlic and chilies and Sichuan peppercorns can go in together. Bring that chicken over the top, again, so that doesn't burn. And that flavour will really start to pack in quite quickly now. The sauce is going to come in as the wok is really smoking hot, and you can see it's building up some smoke and heat now. Just pour that round the edge. You can see it's immediately bubbling away. Tummy in the... Oh, that is smoking hot. You can really, that chili and the Sichuan peppercorn hit me pretty hard. Give that a good flick through. Oh, yeah. Real wok cooking that. Your cashews go in last because you want to keep their crunch. Now I'm just going to cook this to a point where all that sauce is just wrapping around the chicken nicely. Okay, that's done. So I'm just going to take a little bit out for a bit of taster. So what you want from a good stir fry of the meat is a slight char, good bit of smokiness. That will work well with the chili. There's a deep, savoury and spicy flavour of that. I'm getting the tingle on the tongue now. And this week we're going for a Vietnamese beef stew, Boco Ho. It's a Vietnamese beef stew called Boco. Boco Ho. Merry Christmas. It's a Vietnamese beef stew called Boco. Ho, 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 Boco Ho. Merry Christmas. So we're going to start with a paste using some Thai shallots. They've been soaking in hot water just for sort of 10 minutes or so. And that just makes it a lot easier to peel. So once you cut them in half, it's nice and easy. you can just roughly chop your shallots. This is all going to go into the pestle and mortar in a second, so it can be quite rough. If you're anything like my family, even on Christmas Day when you've had a massive meal, all you want to do is watch people cook food, then thanks for watching today. It's roughly chopped and then straight into your pestle and mortar. Joining those shallots, we've got a bit of garlic. This is a fair bit of garlic. This is really the base flavour for the whole dish. Again, roughly chopped. Straight in. And then got some bird-eye chilli. One chilli for me is enough, but if you wanted a bit more heat, then just add a bit more. Lemongrass, give them a good bash first. Perhaps warn your neighbours beforehand. Lemongrass can be quite woody, so you do want to bash it well before slicing into it. Some ginger. It's a really nice fragrant paste. So much great citrusy flavour from the lemongrass. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just get this paste cooking and bring out all that fragrant flavour, that proper sort of bashing of the paste into that nice smooth finish. Just bring out all the oils and the flavour from those spices. A little bit of oil. Enough to actually fry the paste well. Then you just want it on a medium heat to start. Now you don't have to use all of that paste. It does pack a lot of flavour into the dish. This is really what carries this stew throughout the next few hours. Like cooking a curry, you want to cook out the paste until that sort of rawness comes out. It should smell aromatic but not too grassy. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes to cook the paste nicely. You don't want it to burn, but it's okay if there's a little bit sticking at the bottom of the pan. I'm going to add the beef next. You might add a bit more oil, but then once that's seared nicely and the rest of the spices go in, we'll then pour the stock in, and the stock will really lift everything off the bottom of the pan. This is Nat, one of our chefs.
Hi.
She's excited about Christmas too.
Yes, I love Christmas.
You're a Harry Potter fan, aren't you?
I am indeed.
It's very Christmassy, Harry Potter.
I know, it is.
Is it as Christmassy as a Vietnamese beef stew though?
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Anyway, thank you, Nat. Great smile. A little bit more oil. And then your beef goes in. With the cut of beef, I quite like to use a secondary cut of meat. So like beef shin, or skirt, something like that. I have seen things like top side being used in Vietnam as well. So, you know, whatever you want, whatever's right for you and your stew. As long as you slow cook it, and it's got a little bit of marbling inside, it's a good bit of beef to use. I've seared that beef nicely now. So next is your spices. So there's a bit of Chinese influence in Vietnam. And this is the 5 spice, that's where that comes from. So 5 spice in there. Some cinnamon and star anise for added punchy flavour. Mix that through nicely, and the sweetness and the sort of spiciness or the heat from the cinnamon and star anise will work really well with that paste. You do want to cook that off like I am though, because you want to again bring out as much flavour from those whole spices and the 5 spices as possible. So I've just got that onto a low heat for now, just whilst I'm cutting my tomatoes. We can bring it up to heat again when I'm ready. The tomatoes will start to sort of form the base liquid of the stew. They can be quite chunky cuts because they're going to really sweat down. You can go straight in. So I pop that right up to high heat now. That's to create enough steam for the tomato juice to start sort of just coming out and creating its own stewing liquid. Cover that with a lid. Medium to high heat should do it. Give it a couple of minutes and then I'm going to add my stock. Last couple of bits of veg, my carrots and potato. Now, just rough chunks of carrot should do. And if you had any leftovers from your Christmas dinner, you could use your carrot and your roast potatoes for this type of dish as well and just put them in a little bit later into the stew. You know I don't like to waste any leftovers. I've got a couple of massive potatoes here, so I'm just going to use one of these. With the potato, you kind of want it to be a similar sized chunk to your carrot. So, my tomatoes and its juice has really come out nicely now. Smells delicious already. Chicken stock. Bring that to a boil. So the last thing you want to do before we just let that cook for a nice long time is just season it up. So I've got some fish sauce here. A little bit of salt and sugar. Go easy on the salt for now. You can always re-season again later. Sugar. 2 or 3 pinches of sugar. Give that a stir. And then we're going to let that simmer for about an hour and a half minimum, if not 2 hours if you can push it further, before I add the carrots and potatoes. And the carrots and potatoes later on will just help to thicken up that stew sauce. So after about an hour and a half or so, you can add your carrot and your potato. You want to cook that for at least another 30 minutes. So the starch from the potatoes will come out and just start to thicken that stew up. So this has been going for a good 2 hours or so. The longer this goes, the better really. So if you had sort of 5-6 hours, just keep stewing it away. That is super soft, melt in the mouth. And the potato just really works with it as well. The sauce is delicious. You get this really nice sort of lingering heat from the chili. Very, very natural dish. Barely any seasoning in it at all, because that's kind of cooked through over that time. I love slow cooking.